Creating cosmos out of chaos.
Well, it's so special to be able to sit here with you and all these puppies, especially the fact that the plaque has finally been erected.
We've so waited for this moment. It's been such a blessing, but we've waited for it so long. I wanted to see the names and have them here and know that they're already part of our history, not just family's history.
Yeah.
It's very special.
And here we are also sitting in the clinic itself.
The reality.
The reality of it. A year and a half ago, this was a dream, and now here we are. And it's so beautiful. And
it happened. You made it happen, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, honestly. And it's just so fitting, I think, to shoot this episode here in this podcast inside the glass house, the glass clinic. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
The memory of so many dogs helped build. So we ran a campaign that we started right before Xavier was born. And it was called In Honor Of, and it was in honor of Prince, because we felt like we knew in our hearts that before Xavier came into our life that we needed to do something to honor Prince, who had just passed away. And it was a long battle he had. And it was so amazing to see our community get behind it. And everyone who donated over a certain $20 got their name on a plaque.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to include other people into this campaign, because we didn't want it just to be, we're building in honor of one dog, because everybody felt the love and the pain of losing an animal.
Yes.
So this represents not just our love for Prince, but thousands of people that came together and showed their love and support for what you do here, Lya, in honor of their animals and their loved ones.
So it wasn't just in honor of Prince, it was in honor of every life lost for those who donated.
Yes.
And they all came together as a angelic family.
Such a beautiful moment, such a beautiful idea, such a beautiful manifestation. It really is in honor of them.
Yes.
But it is such an honor for us to be able to be part of their history. That's a little baby.
Here comes a puppy.
Your friend.
My friend, he's been with me all morning today, just following me around. When were you running again? I lost you for a second. So where did you go?
We just got puppy bombed.
Herd of dogs everywhere. Yeah. You want to sit with me?
Oh my goodness. All right, so we have a fourth member for the podcast. Oh my God. So what's the total? How many dogs do we have at Territorio De Zaguates?
I refuse to keep an exact count, because then I probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I know it's over 2,000. I'm sure Maria Fernanda knows exactly. Marifer, ¿usted tiene idea exacta de cuántos perros hay? Sí, estamos por debajo de 1,000. Maria Fernanda seems to think we've been able to place about 200 dogs, because she says we're about 1,800.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's good. So it fluctuates.
It does fluctuate. Usually it goes down a bit and then up a huge amount, and then down a bit and then a big hike up. Definitely, there's still many more dogs coming in than leaving, but as long as some are finding a home, that's we're happy. We're happy, and the others.
Yeah.
If the others can live their life out here and they're happy, we've done our job then.
Do you find that the pandemic has played a role in the increase of animals being surrendered?
We found, yes, at the beginning, a lot of people who were worried that they'd lose their job or had lost their job, the first thing they got rid of was their pets.
Wow.
And contrary to what happened in many, many other countries, at least I've heard, it wasn't like now that people were sort of trapped in their homes, they wanted to share their space with a dog. It didn't happen that way here. So yes, we've been getting much, much more dogs, but in any case, I think it would happen anyways, pandemic or no pandemic, because unless we get behind, I was wondering what was knocking. Unless we get behind spaying and neutering all the dogs on the street, it's just going to be a never-ending cycle of find one, bring him here. Find another, bring him back.
Well, and that's the whole premise when we asked how we could help. That's what this clinic was for. It's a spay and neuter clinic.
Spay and neuter clinic.
And it's already operational, right?
Oh yes, we've done well over 500 dogs here already.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And in here, and at the beginning we were working without electricity. Now we have electricity and water and everything we need. And we've been able to start getting people to just bring us the dog. People who own dogs, but they haven't been able to spay or neuter them because their economic situation isn't the best. It's like, bring them over when the doctor's up here and we'll get them done for you.
Wow.
Which is the ultimate goal of this place. Just bring me a dog, whatever dog, and we'll spay it or neuter it. And it'll be one less dog having babies.
Oh
Right.
Control your friend. Venga, gordo.
He's good. I got him. But that's interesting. So because it's something that I think with Boho Beautiful, as we've traveled around the world, we've seen it's not a problem unique to Costa Rica.
No.
It's a problem that's a pandemic to some degree
That's
worldwide.
a pandemic.
Or a dog-demic, where it just seems like there's homeless dogs that need attention everywhere. And it really strikes us close to home, because when we think about the history of dogs, we brought them in to be our best friend.
Exactly.
We bred them. We
invented dogs.
We invented dogs.
We invented dogs.
And then somewhere along the line, being the stewards of the relationship, as a race, humans forgot that we created this problem. And now it just seems like now it's the dogs that are suffering and being abandoned and needing help so desperately. And so the solution to you, is it 100% in spay and neuter?
Look, spay and neuter is, it doesn't only fix the number problem, which is the biggest problem. I mean, one dog, like the two dogs I showed you at the beginning, mom and daughter, we brought them in, they were both pregnant at the same time. The daughter was 6 months old, the mom was a year and a half old, maybe a year old. And they were both pregnant at the same time. So in a matter of a week, we had 11 dogs from one of them and 6 or 7 from the other. So all of a sudden, 2 dogs become a huge number of dogs. And it keeps happening every 6 months if you don't do it. So then you have all these dogs on the street that are suffering, because nobody should live on a street. No creature is safe, happy, or secure on a street. Mm-hmm. And then you have people who get used to seeing these dogs running around hungry, scared, sick, and it becomes part of the background. So you're killing something inside a person if you're breeding this person to be an unfeeling human being. And it happens. It happens all the time. You become blind to the plight of these animals. And as you said, yes, we invented dogs, and then we just turned our back on them. And we know for sure if the foot was on the other paw, if the shoe was on the other paw, you know that they would give their lives. They would surrender their lives and whatever they had to surrender if they had to protect us. And we can't even do the minimum for them. It's not fair, it's not balanced, it's not right. And if we can't find a home for every single dog out there, which is impossible, and if we can't guarantee food for every dog that's out there, and that's also impossible, then we have to stop dogs being born. The moment a dog becomes rare, then people will want that dog. Because it's like, I'm not going to find another one. Look, that one's on the street, doesn't have a collar, doesn't have a tag. I'm going to get it because where else am I going to get a free dog? But until that happens, we're just going to have more and more dogs feeling lost, feeling abandoned, feeling scared.
Right.
Nothing.
And do you think that a solution to that as well lies in education? Like educating people?
You have to educate people. I've said it many times that most of the suffering that animals have to go through luckily has nothing to do with violence or evil itself. We can't count out that there are a few monsters out there, but most of the suffering, Rio, who's scared because his owner just dropped him off 2 days ago, doesn't know what's going on. This guy who's epileptic, this other guy she's got skin issues. This comes from ignorance, not from evil. Ignorance, the sad thing is ignorance is fixed, evil not so much, but it's not happening.
But there's far more ignorance than evil, right? And I think ignorance, with a little bit of exposure, maybe we can help shift it into consciousness and awareness. And I think that's one of the reasons that we've always held what you do to such a championed level, because you're at the tip of the spear.
Yes.
And this is a worldwide problem. And as much as, cutting off the pipeline of dogs being born at the exponential rate they are is key. I mean, it's a human problem more than a dog problem.
It's a human problem.
And so
yeah,
being able to support you, who's cleaning up the mess that the humans have created, and who's not even cleaning it up, but being the custodian, holding, like you've been holding fort here for
how many years?
How many years have you been here?
Yeah.
I don't know, 20 something since I first started at home. Here, easily 16, 17. I don't know. Wow. I'm not even counting. I don't know. It's been a long. Well, 2004. We already had about 80 dogs up here. Let's just grow from that.
That's just incredible. Like, my question is, how do you take care of 2,000 dogs? Like, they're not, you guys are off leash, you're no kill. How do you
really emphasize
logistics
that? Off
of
leash
that? Yeah.
And no kill. That's almost unheard of. Yeah. Like, if you say that to someone in Western society, they'll say it's impossible.
They still say it's impossible.
Right.
They still say it's impossible. And I agree. And for the longest time, when I kept asking myself that question, why can't we have a farm full of dogs? Everybody said, no, it's impossible. You have to have them caged in. But, how do we take care of it? We spay and neuter them. Mm-hmm. We feed them. We vaccinate them. We try to keep them healthy. And the rest, they do themselves. I don't know. They do have to be looked after. They're like kindergarten kids. So when they get bored, they start acting up, and they need to be reminded that's not the proper behavior. Mm. But they kind of teach each other how to behave, and what's okay and what's not okay, and what's acceptable and what isn't. We may have had a good seedling, I don't know, maybe the first few 800 or 80 or 100 dogs that we brought up had lived at home with me for about a year or two or more. Some of them had been with me for more. So I don't know if they started teaching the rest, and they just they've been passing on this information. But you see it in the new dogs. In dogs that have been surrendered because they were aggressive. In dogs that have a history of being problematic. At the beginning, you walk them with a muzzle and on a leash and with a few of the dogs, and you see them sort of slowly decompressing and sort of reprogramming themselves, and all of a sudden you can take the muzzle off. It's a matter of a week or two, and they're walking around with the rest of them.
Amazing.
It's not us. It's them. They know. Right. They know how to behave.
But you guys do have a system to where, like how do you feed them? Like, how do you feed 2,000 dogs?
Like you feed goats, actually. There's it's about 80 meters of cement troughs, and we just empty out 8 30 kilo sacks at the beginning, and most of the dogs along those 80 meters. And the first dogs are obviously the stronger ones, the bigger ones, the most outgoing ones. And then we just keep filling it and filling it and filling it till the first ones are not interested, and then they leave room for the next. And we just do 25 sacks more or less of those 30 kilos until we've got enough left over that nobody's really coming up for. And then we still see the shyest ones or the oldest ones that come and nibble, and then we get the first ones coming down for thirds or seconds. But it's one way that we can make sure that they all ate till they were content. And our system is that. I mean, that's our feeding. That's how we feed them. But
Is
for
that
example,
is that once a day, twice a day?
once a day.
Okay.
They can eat till they're full. They can eat till they puke. But that's their once a day. And then, of course, the first thing we're trying to do when we get them, if they're healthy enough, is get them spayed or neutered, which is going to help with the behavior anyways. We have to vaccinate them once a year, which means separating them, and it takes about a week to do that. So we have to separate them and mark them, and this one's been done. And anytime we have something sort of really wrong with one of the dogs, we have to bring them down for x-rays or that sort of thing. But we have live-in staff that actually looks after the dogs, and they're amazing guys. I know. They're amazing guys, and they'll notice when one of them is not eating as much or is limping. It's amazing. I mean, just because they live with them.
Right.
The guys live on premises, so these are their four-legged siblings. And
Would you say they're like the alpha, like the guys that
the
live
guys
here?
are the alpha.
Yeah.
We have bossy dogs, but we don't have alpha dogs at all.
So that's how you kind of control the fighting, right? Because it's dogs. Dogs
Exactly.
get into fights.
Well, that's how they communicate. Most of the time they snap at each other or growl, or they have to let the other dogs know that they're in their space or they're... But usually it's yelling is enough to sort of break whatever hostility was building. If it gets past that for any reason, and that could be because one of them found a bone or they're protecting something, a stick, then we might need the guys to come in and sort of focus on that, one or two of the guys. And then the others, since the other guys are the alphas, all they have to do is run off in different directions, and their dogs will run off behind them, and it won't escalate.
No.
So it becomes easier to manage, and it is manageable.
I've seen it many times we've been here, and it's almost like you have like a team of Caesar Milans. Like
That's how it feels
to
like,
put it
yeah.
into like the Western culture, kind of how does that work? And I mean, anytime I explain it to someone, I'm like, it's like there's just a whole bunch of like the live-in staff, and they can just go like, and just make a noise, and whatever's going on, the dogs just.
It's like sorry.
incredible.
It's incredible to see, and it's
they know now.
I don't know. And so, how many people are living, and what is the staff total like?
Well, basically, it's don't let the dogs know that that's not accepted here. We know. I mean, you can warn your buddy that it's wrong, but that's it.
Yeah.
So we tell them, I mean, yell, and they see us, so they go, oh, okay, so that's okay. So they get used to the hey, and the dogs also get used to it, because it's funny, even the new dogs, if they get into a little argument, when we yell, the older dogs that are used to it will stop, and the new dog is like, what just happened here? And it'll learn. It learns to react to that. It's like, oops, nope, I messed up. Okay, sorry. And it works. It works. Of course, it's a lot more work for the humans. Sure, you've got to be alert 24/7. These guys have to live here. It's not as easy as tending to a bunch of cages where you just get the dog out, put him in the next one, clean that cage, put him back in. You have a paper there. I don't know, you keep a record of the dog. It's not that easy. But I never started this to make it easy for humans. It's for the dogs. And if it's harder for us, well, tough. We created this, so we might as well just deal with it.
So how many
about
people?
exercise? My question.
How many people live here?
I'm happier when we have 5 to 8 people.
Okay.
But since pandemic, it's been harder because a lot of these people, these guys are not Costa Rican. 99% of our staff is Nicaraguan. They're up for the work, and they make 3-4 times as much as they'd make per hour in their country. So they've been able to sort of save their money here, go back home and do something with that, and improve their lives and their families. So we always have a staff. We have a group of them that come, they work a few months, and then they go and do something with their money, and then another group comes in. It's usually their relatives or their neighbors, and then when this group is ready to go, the other group comes up. But with pandemic, it wasn't that easy. A lot of them left because they lost their parents and they couldn't come back. And some of them left and just couldn't come back. It was hard for them to come back. So we're really short-staffed right now. We're still short-staffed. And
Do you take volunteers?
it's hard because volunteers, first, if they're from abroad, we can't offer them a decent place to stay. And then local people are not, it's not easy to do what we do here and do it well. So it's kind of risky to have a newbie come in and not do it's either going to be a problem for the person or for the dog. So it's not, no, we need people who already know how to do it. So we're short-staffed, and we can't really pay 8 people right now because pandemic it's been hard on everyone, and donations have also been coming in slower, so we got to sort of slow the pace. Ideally, 8 people can do the job very well. And a lot of people ask us, what's your maximum dog capacity? If I could hire as many people as necessary, we have the room to have 10,000 dogs here. Wow. But I'd have to hire a lot of people to do the work. And it's not the case.
And also hiring people, it's not just anybody off the street that can come in and be an alpha, right? And
we've had excellent workers. Strong, focused, good at what they do, but they don't connect with the dogs. And you can tell. You can tell when a dog is not connecting with a human being and the dog just doesn't want to be with that person. And we can't afford that. We cannot afford that. I rather have okay workers that are liked by the dogs, even if they take 3 times as long to do their work, than have a very efficient worker that doesn't click with the dogs.
And so we dealt with some food. We dealt with vaccines. There's spay and neutering. And now we have this wonderful clinic. Thanks to everybody. What about you were going to ask about the exercise
for the dogs?
Yeah, for the dog. It's free range, so I imagine the mobility option is there.
But they don't. Unless the humans move, they usually they're as lazy as most of the dogs everyone has at home. The moment somebody walks, they're walking. They're up and excited and they want to go places. So they're the ones that hang around the guys that are working on the field and maybe cutting the grass or checking the pipelines. Those are always on the go. But if they don't have if their person isn't here, they'll be lounging. We try to sort of walk either the short walk or the long walk at least once every day. If it's raining, it gets a little trickier because not all dogs want to go, and it becomes kind of quick and slippery.
Do you still do the hikes are people still able to? That was a huge feature.
Until we open officially again, which we've had to go to court for. We can't do it. This is private property. If I can bring somebody up on a weekend, which is when I can come up here because I work during the week. If I can bring somebody up here during the weekend, I'll bring them. But I can't officially say I'm open until we get the permits.
Wow.
And the permits depend on everything being done. It's almost done. We still have to work on the bathrooms and the roof for the isolation area, and I think that's basically it.
Because you used to. That's how we heard about you.
Yep.
Yes.
There's some big internet viral videos, and we heard you did weekend hikes.
Yeah.
That's actually how we first met. I think we came on a hike.
Yes, you came on a hike.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do because that's our way of educating people on the reality of the problem.
Right.
And not only on how many homeless dogs that we have, because a lot of people can't picture the problem until they come here and they see hundreds of dogs and you go, oh, and these are only, I turned down 200 dogs a day maybe. We'd have people who want to surrender their dogs because they're moving, people who just know of a horrible case and we can't take it because it's out in the boonies, and if somebody can bring it, we'll take it. But so we'd have so many more dogs, and people just sometimes they can't wrap their head around it. So coming here and seeing them does that. It shows them that there is a real problem that everybody can help with. If you can't adopt, that's fine, but try and spay or neuter a dog. If you can't, then at least tell somebody how important it is for them to do it.
Contributing to the conversation. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard thing. It's a social stigma, I think, still to this day. But when somebody mentions that they're going to get a dog, and then you're like, oh, that's amazing. Where are you getting it? Or what dog? What's your plan? And they're like, oh, well, I have a breeder over here. And like, can we talk about breeders for a second? Because
sure.
The fact that people
happily.
are still paying
Buying
money
dogs,
to buy dogs that more humans are forcing to be created under a certain circumstance. Well, we have places everywhere, all over the world, that have thousands, hundreds of millions of dogs that are in desperate need of a home.
And we know we'll never find a home. And these breeders, okay, let me backtrack a bit. Okay, so I have nothing against breeds. I have a lot against breeders. Not all. Because I know certain breeders are responsible breeders, and they actually go out of their way to make sure that they keep the bloodlines intact, and they bring in dogs from other parts of the world to make sure that you're not breeding relatives. But that takes a lot of money. And it takes a lot of control.
Right.
The breeder's not going to control that part. If it has to be an external entity that makes sure that you are actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. Down here, that doesn't happen. Down here, we have whoever wants to breed a dog can breed it. Nobody's checking on the health of the dogs. Nobody's checking on even the lines of the dogs. There's a breeder here who he's putting out Bernese, the huge.
Bernese dogs.
The ones,
Yeah.
the huge ones, which are the most noble dogs in the world. There's something wrong with his founding male, and most of his dogs are very aggressive. So you don't want one of those dogs.
Well, but what about adopt, don't shop?
The problem is you also have to educate people. First, you have to educate people on, and it's amazing, it seems like a very obvious truth, but people want something, they want a dog that looks like something. Why don't you adopt, for example, why don't you adopt a French bulldog? Because there are no French bulldogs here for adoption. Because nobody's taking the French bulldogs that are being mistreated or misbred from the breeders. So you're not going to find your dream dog unless you buy it. But I think if people knew what you're doing, what you're contributing to when you buy a dog, if you really knew, if it was that obvious, not just obvious enough for you to choose whether you want to ignore that truth or actually want to act on it, but obvious enough for the whole society, to the point where you'd kind of look bad walking down the street with a breed dog.
Yeah.
We know what you did.
Right.
You paid a human being to produce that dog when 10 are dying on the street. We know what you did. But we're not there yet.
No,
not there yet. And unless there's a lot of education enforced, or I don't know, it's not going to happen. Again, not all breeders are bad, but you can't say it's okay to breed a dog, but you're not doing anything to control the problem on the streets.
I think I just have a really hard time with the idea of
Me
bringing
too.
more dogs into the world when
Of
there's so
course.
many, like purposely doing it for a profit.
Of
When
course.
you're here struggling
Yes.
to pay for the food and to pay for the expenses and to pay for everything that goes on with cleaning up the problem, and they're facilitating a purchase
Just
which could
shipping it out.
easily substitute as an adoption. And it's based on a vanity. It's based on
It's
like
vanity, yes.
it's based on, oh, I want
This
the
type
little
of dog.
dog that looks exactly like this, or the perfect breed this. But it's like every one of these dogs has a heart
And
and has a
love.
kindness
Yeah.
and has love.
And you know that when they've come from dark places, when they've lived through
They've seen-
sadness, they are so grateful. All dogs are wonderful, but a dog that's had really just survive
Right.
and finally feels safe in your arms is a different animal altogether than the one that just was born, fed, and handed to another human being.
The one thing that they actually do have in North America, and I've seen that in Canada and America, is something called Pet Finder. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a website that you can go on. And so let's say you had something like, okay, I really want a golden retriever. Like, I really want this type of dog. You can actually go and you can select golden retriever, and it puts a radius of like, okay, 100, 20, 200 kilometers away from me, and it'll give you all different types of
Wow.
dogs, puppies, adult dogs from different rescues, from different
Wow.
organizations that might have that dog or maybe a mix of that dog. So that's something I think for anyone listening and watching this as well. It's like, okay, if you're ready to commit to a dog, but you are really in love with a particular type,
Find one that needs
Yeah.
to be rescued, and they're out there. I'd say not here because
maybe someone needs to implement something like that in Costa Rica.
of course,
right?
but we
Yeah.
have to start by taking the dogs from the breeders.
Right.
But
yeah.
how do you take a dog when there's no somebody's
He's snoring.
dreaming?
Yeah.
Snoring?
Snoring or dreaming?
Both.
The little puppy.
If I take a dog from you, it's because you are not complying with a set of rules. If that doesn't exist, how can I take a dog from you?
Right.
How can I say you are not a fit breeder? Bring these dogs over. And I've seen dogs put in bird cages with their vocal cords cut, and the breeder, because we were doing something undercover, and I was posing as this the wife of somebody who was buying. They wanted to buy new stock for their business. And this lady was so proud of herself and saying, can you hear anything? And I was going, no. I was going, of course, because I cut I have a really good vet do it, and I do it the right way. Because most people just do it when they're 3 months old.
Oh my God.
And then they'll grow back. You have to do it at 3 months, at 6 months, and at 9 months. And that way,
Wow.
they never grow back. course, she needs dogs. She needs completely mute dogs because she had a wall of tiny little bird cages full with Shih Tzus and mini Poms and all kinds of tiny little dogs.
That's terrible.
And she had a permit from Senasa. She had a government permit for it.
In Costa Rica here.
Yet they can't give you a permit.
Oh no.
Like,
No,
can we talk about this issue as well? Like the
resistance?
Resistance. Like, I remember the first time we met you, like we did the campaign, remember, for the fencing,
Yes,
because you had neighbors giving you issues.
Well, what were they? They were sneaking over at night and poisoning
They
your
were
dogs?
poisoning our dogs. They were poisoning
Wow.
our dogs. And I guarantee if these were some fancy breed, they would leave us alone. But the fact that they are strays is that stigma. It's the same stigma. It's like, ugh, it's a mountain full of strays. It's a mountain full of dogs.
Yes.
There
Beautiful
is-
dogs.
Exactly. But we had people coming in. We still have resistance. And we have very important groups who would benefit from us not being here and not having this project. Mainly because this, and this is my theory, but it makes a lot of sense. This farm has its own water, and it has a lot of water. And we've been very careful to not cut down trees, to let trees grow back. This used to be a dairy farm, so a lot of trees were cut down
Wow.
for that purpose, but not as many as the ones around us. And so we've let everything grow back. And we got good water here, and all the other farms don't.
Wow.
So this is a very valuable piece of land, and I think a lot of people believe that if it wasn't for the dogs, I'd have no real use for the farm. And they might be right, but the dogs are always going to be here. So, but so a lot of people didn't want us here because I think they had plans for this place. It's been my grandfather's. It's been in my family for 80 years,
Wow.
more or less.
That's amazing.
It's been here for a long, long time. So that's kind of the resistance. The government doesn't like us because we don't do things the way they want us to do. Although there's no strict regulation, all they can think of is shelters. Yeah, shelters mean a bunch of cages, and you manage them. It's not our problem, it's yours. And so from the very beginning, when I said, no, I'm not going to, I'm not going to, then don't call it a shelter. Don't call it a shelter. If you don't, if what I have can't be considered a shelter on your part, then don't call it a shelter. Call it whatever you want. But this is private property. I am not going to cage these dogs because I know a lot of these dogs will never get adopted. So it would mean they'd be living in cages for the rest of their lives. And I'm just not going to do it. So of course that rubbed them the wrong way from the beginning. The fact that by having all these dogs here and by posting that we brought 30 in from Limon and that we're bringing this one that's in heat and that we've spayed and neutered X amount of dogs already. And Albert is very vocal about denouncing that the government's not doing anything to stop the problem.
So is it that you're like pointing out the blemish?
Yes.
And they
So-
don't like that.
They don't like it at all. It's like,
Because you'd think, I mean, the Costa Rican government has a really beautiful reputation around the world for those that talk about, you know, the green aspect, the first country to ever go green.
Yeah,
And
the ban
there's
on hunting.
the banning
no
of hunting and,
zoos,
and the zoos and things like that. You'd imagine that they would maybe see some sort of value in the parallel ethics to not just even supporting what you're doing, but building things like this to...
what you just said, parallel ethics. The thing is, and I'm not going to undermine the other efforts. Costa Rica truly has done a lot of work and has put a lot of effort towards protecting nature, but it seems, and that's the stigma. I mean, if it doesn't have a colorful beak, if it doesn't have beautiful feathers, if it's not a sloth, if it's not a cougar, if it's not endangered, is it not worthy of protection? Because dogs are also animals that need help. But it's like, nope, that's not a problem right now. It's not a priority right now. Then when is it going to be a priority? Are we going to let it get so out of hand that the only solution is going to be what other more developed countries have done, which is just collect the dogs and euthanize them? Is that how you're going to control it? Are you going to let it get that out of control so that that's your excuse to, hey, we're going to fix it, but that's going to be the way we fix it? No. So that's why we have to not only bring awareness, but we have to constantly be pointing out the government's apathy.
Right.
Because it makes it harder for them to say, hey, geez, we have a problem here. We're going to have to step in and solve it.
Yeah.
Well, we've been telling you have a problem for years now. So don't act surprised. You could have fixed it some other way. Don't come with those ideas.
Right.
Well, what's interesting too, because the more you seem to point it out, the more they don't support you in your endeavors. Like the fact that we had to engage in building a glass clinic.
Yeah, what is that about?
Can you talk about the glass clinic?
Yeah, a lot of people think it's like just vanity too.
Yeah.
No. The reason we needed this clinic is because, yes, our main goal is to be able to spay and neuter anyone's dog. Just bring it and we'll do it. But also we need to spay and neuter dogs every day here. There's not a day that goes by without a new dog coming in.
Wow.
And 99% of them have not been spayed or neutered. So we need to do easily 60 dogs a week. We used to be able to get vets to come up and do it. We'd set up a little tent, like most places, and the vet would come and knock out 80 dogs. It's not free. We get charged a very decent fee, but it was fine. We could do it. No. Then the Board of Veterinarians stood in and said, nope, you can't do that. No. Because you can only spay and neuter an animal if you do it in the right conditions, which are, you have to have a roof and walls. Okay? And at the time, we only had a dark little place up there, which wasn't good enough. And so we had to bust the dogs down. We had to hire somebody with, usually Don John, with a great big truck, a cattle truck, and we have to put dogs in individual kennels and bring down 60 or 80 dogs to get spayed or neutered at wherever our vet could get permission for. That added easily 200,000 colones to the operation, which could have been 20, 30 other dogs, but that money had to go to the transport. So it became more and more necessary that we had to do something here. When we said, okay, we're going to build our own up here so we don't have to truck the dogs down, they said yes. Keep in mind that you have to have three doctors at all time.
Why
what
three?
Do you mean 3 doctors? Yeah, because there's a pre-op, the op, and the post-op. And there has to be a doctor supervising each of those stages. And I kept trying to think back to see if I'd ever seen that anywhere else. And really?
So it's some kind of condition they applied to your permitting.
Yeah. So you've got to have 3 doctors at all time. Okay. So we just did the numbers and we couldn't. We had, for us to be able to pay 10,000 colones for each dog we spay, that's aside from whatever the vet is charging us to come up here. 3 vets, it's not gonna fly.
Right.
So Alvaro just he thought, so they need to be supervised by a vet at all times. Okay, so if I build this out of glass and we have the vet in the center, she can perfectly well supervise the pre-op and the post-op. And they basically had no argument against it. It was like,
so you found a way to get around these crazy demands.
And it turned out to be a beautiful place. So it's not only our way of going, but it also turned out to be a really nice place to hang around in.
Yeah.
And doctors who come up, it's like, ooh, I wish I could work here all the time. It's like, oh, if you don't charge me anything, you can.
Well, because it feels like you're in the jungle in here. We're surrounded by the
gorgeous, and
jungle.
you're floating, and
It's beautiful.
it's
It is
beautiful.
really, really
Well,
beautiful.
I mean, that's really interesting. It's so crazy that the problem has so many facets. Like there's so much bureaucratic nonsense. There's so much resistance to the problem and admitting it themselves, and then there's so much resistance to people trying to fix the problem. And like and then there's the problem itself, which are the dogs and the struggle and having to turn dogs away. Like it's an endless cycle of symptoms.
Yes.
For something in its totality that, I mean, it's a compassionate, it's a knife into the heart. Hello, friends. I just wanted to say, if you are enjoying Stars and Destruct and you want to be notified about new episodes, new opportunities, special offers, all kinds of stuff, you can stay directly in touch with us by signing up to the mailing list in the link below for Star Walkers only. All right, check it out, sign up, and back to the episode. How do you keep yourself balanced through all this?
They do that. You know, when I come up and I'm sick and tired of humanity, and I've just had to very gently explain to somebody that that her 17-year-old dog should not be surrendered just because her daughter got a puppy and she can't have 2 dogs. And when you've tried to tell her that that 17-year-old dog does not know another life, which isn't her home and her people, and that it's not fair that she has to lose that because somebody bought or got given a puppy, and you know that she's still gonna bring her over, and you feel like, yeah, that's what we feel like. Franco.
Just contributing to
Hey, Franco.
the effort.
We know.
Ooh.
All you have to do is sort of set foot in here, and these guys who've had it much harder, who are still struggling to recover from whatever somebody did to them, they just run down and they jump up and they just want to give you love, and they show you that they're happy to see you. And all of a sudden, whatever is bad about the world outside is sort of less important. And really, it is less important, but sometimes it's overwhelming.
Of course.
Of course it is.
Especially like not just those kinds of stories, but the cruelty that you see that people do. Even today, like that dog you were showing me that's in your car right now it's going to have its leg amputated because of somebody's cruelty. Like, how do you sleep at night, Lya? Like, that's difficult, right?
It's awful, and sometimes I've asked friends.
Yeah.
It's like, don't tag me on problems that I can't fix.
Right.
If you can take that dog away from the person who's hurting it, but I can't. Legally, I can't. So I don't want to know what's happening, because then I can't fix it. I just know it's happening, and it's painful. Yeah. You know what's hard? And I keep going over and over and over it again. It's helped me also put things into perspective. Sometimes you see these characters on the street, and they look shady, and you go, oh, and you kind of walk faster, or you cross over to the other side. Just you feel that there's something wrong with them, just because they look kind of off.
The energy of it.
But the woman who did that to the dogs in my car, a poor little stray, whose biggest crime was probably to not be cute enough to be picked up by somebody or tolerated by somebody, just ordinary yellow, long, gangly dog. The only place he could sort of find protection from the rain these days was a little roof over somebody's gate. And the woman didn't like that, and she had already sort of, I don't know if she'd thrown water on him or whatever, but he'd eventually come back and curl up, trying to get out of the rain. That's it. That's his crime, not having a home. And she just decided that she would roll the gate over its leg.
It's terrible.
And now he has to be amputated because she destroyed his leg. But this person is a teacher. This woman is somebody you would be sitting next to on a bus. At church, for sure, she goes to church. You'd probably bump into her in a supermarket. And these people have it in them to do that.
Yeah.
So who's out there, who's more dangerous? The person who's actually had to suffer through rejection and probably a bunch of bad decisions and shows it on his skin? Probably not. Probably not.
That's really interesting.
But so you mentioned, going through and having to see this and deal with terrible human beings like that. The dogs is what gives you your strength. Is there anything else that you do, like for yourself personally, to just like fill up your heart, to keep going, to do what you're doing?
Well, every day I also have to remind myself that these people who really are the only things that can overwhelm me now, we all make mistakes. Just as they can forgive all the mistakes and all the pain that they've been subject to by people, and they forgive, wholeheartedly they forgive, kind of rubs off on you. So you're really angry at these people, but getting to the point where you can say, they'll just, if I can't teach them, they'll just have to learn, and it's their problem. I can't carry their problem.
Right.
This is my way of dealing with their problem, which is the dogs.
And giving love to them.
I give love to them, and I really follow their example and try to not keep the bad part of that person alive in me. I don't want to carry that. I don't want to carry that.
You have such a magnificent heart.
Yes, yeah. It's
I'm
unbelievable.
just crazy.
Well, so far, you've forgiven breeders and found a way to justify what they do in a very noble and forgiving way where I can't. Like I just can't support breeders. I can't support the idea, the concept, anything like that. And now you've shown that you have so much compassion that the ones that cause the problems that you clean up, you have forgiveness for. And that's such a noble character trait that I need to take a lesson from, because I find it really hard to imagine that school teacher deserves my forgiveness. But you're right, she does, because we all make mistakes. It's just we hope that the mistakes we make
are not that
Doesn't.
size.
aren't going to affect another being. And so
Yeah.
what's fascinating to me is you've got a very deep connection, and I recognize this deep connection, and this is why I think we all became such fast friends, between the life of an animal and what the value that you put on that, and the empathy and the love that you give towards it, and the kindness and the dedication. I find it so admirable, and it's a quality that I think I learn from every time I'm with you.
Thank you.
But so how can you, what advice can you give to people like myself and people at home watching that have such a hard time? I get compassion fatigue all the time because instead of the love, I find the frustration and the anger and the hopelessness at times and the darkness. What can you say to people like me that have hard time finding the forgiveness, which when you can't find the forgiveness, you can't keep going?
That's just why you have to find the forgiveness, because there aren't enough people doing it. A lot of people, I think we all carry hurt and wounds that haven't healed, and we don't all know how to manage it. I mean, I for sure probably hurt people's feelings without even knowing and not meaning. And people who do things like this teacher for sure have lived through ugliness themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know what they did. I know what they do. But keeping that alive as a memory is overwhelming and will end up, I don't know, sucking the life out of you, sucking the will out of you.
Right.
And everybody has this good side. I'm sure there's a lot of kids that have learned things from this teacher who are going to grow up to be wonderful people. It's an effort both ways. It's an effort to be very angry at somebody and remember why you're angry at that person. And it's also an effort to try and find the other angle. Maybe one of my biggest lessons, I remember I used to go to see a very important person in my life. It was a very older man, and he was in jail. And I'd go every Sunday. And he was protected because he was in a jail mixed with all kinds of other people. Mm-hmm. And he was protected by this huge guy who would give him the shirt off his back, literally, who made sure he had a cot to sleep on because he was older. He shouldn't sleep on the floor, so he made sure he could. This guy had killed 18 people and was a bank robber.
Wow.
But, so of course, you think everybody in a jail is there because they are socially, yeah, probably. But this guy, who brought pain and darkness and suffering to 18 families at least, had enough love for someone to take care of them. So it's like everybody has a bunch of angles. I can try to focus on one or try to focus on another. Mm-hmm. It's their they need to learn something.
Right.
Most people are not ready for you to teach them. They have to learn on their own. So basically what you can do is sort of work with the collateral damage that they're causing, hope they find their way this life or the next one, and karma will do her job. Mm-hmm. And just focus on the positive.
I love that. You're focusing on the light versus the darkness, right? And I think that's something that can be applied to so many levels is when people experience trauma, and whether that is personal trauma or trauma that you see that was done to another being and that's hurting you through their experience. It's like you can live in that moment and just keep letting that darkness haunt you, or you can focus your attention on the light, and the light, that's what's going to get you through it.
When you're trapped in a cave, all you're looking for is a little bit of light, because that means that's the way out. And as long as you can follow that light, there's hope.
It's beautiful.
So
these are your light.
These are my light. These are my little light. These are little beams that were broken off by somebody, and I have the honor and the happiness to enjoy them.
That's so beautiful.
I mean, that's so profound.
Yeah.
I really think there's deep wisdom and value in all of us, just like taking that little lesson, focusing, because you said it takes effort to be angry, and it takes effort to forgive. Across all facets of life, whether it's for something someone did to a dog or something someone did to you, because we all want to focus on being the victim and putting the energy into holding on to that negativity. Why not re-administer that energy towards letting it go? And I think
it's easier said than done, but you have to work on it.
Right. And I think in my life, for me, I've learned to forgive so many people. And yoga's really shown me a lot of that, like our practice and the journey that we've been through, and you know, looking back at my life and all the people that I felt so wronged by. And I've been able to, I think, in a lot of ways, like, hold the truth of that relationship, and maybe the instance that separated us, that I felt so victimized by. I've been able to look at the relationship before that and focus on the good things that I had with those people. But it's funny, because I always had a block between me and someone doing something to an animal.
Yes.
And that's it. It seems so like such a bigger bridge for me to cross.
It is a huge bridge. It is a bigger bridge. You kind of understand how people may have problems and how people may be, I don't know, hurt by other people at the same level.
Right.
But you don't understand how somebody can hurt this. And you can't. Sometimes it's not a matter of understanding, because it's not something you can understand. Because there's nothing in the world that will justify taking whatever rage is in you and taking it out on an animal. Nothing justifies it.
Because it's innocence. It's
exactly. It's got nothing but love.
Nothing but love.
It's like children and animals. I mean, there's a beautiful parallel, because they can both teach us so much.
And to me, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like, so it is a huge bridge. In fact, what a human being does to another human being is very much their problem. It only hurts me when it's this way.
Yeah.
It only shocks you when it's done to an animal or to a kid, right? But that's why it's so important to sort of keep whatever light you have in you bright enough to be able to do this for them, for whoever needs it.
And then keep spreading your message and letting people know that you're here doing this, because it's important for people to know that not everybody can start a sanctuary like this, you know, a rescue like this, even though we all want to. But the reality of it, this is, you know,
Very
you mentioned you have another job that what do you do on?
I prepare kids for SAT, for GMAT, for GRE. So usually I do the language part of getting the kids into universities abroad. And it started, I actually, for the longest time, all I did was I worked with Alvaro when we had our stores. And I'd just be his companion and do the shopping and do the stuff. And it was a very easy, very nice life. And when I started rescuing dogs, I decided, no, I don't want Alvaro, although it was sort of everybody's money. It wasn't just sort of Alvaro's money and my money. But I felt since this was my wacky idea, I should bring in the money for the food. So I started working with this company maybe 18 years ago. It was just I could dedicate 2-3 hours a day, and then and that was enough for the dogs we had at home. And then it just got bigger and bigger, and the job had to become almost a full-time job. And so now I have to work all week in order to make sure, because it's not like I can pay everything with my job job at all, but at least whatever expenses are mine are covered by my job and not by their income. So I don't see them as much as I'd like. I don't enjoy them as much as I'd like because I'm working. But it's the way I have to do things in order to.
So you're self-funding a lot of the operations that's happening here.
As much as I mean, I have my needs are so basic. So whatever, after I've paid the rent on my tiny little place and I've bought whatever food, which isn't much, the rest goes to paying vets or helping out on the food or whatever they need.
Hello, friends. We really hope that you're enjoying Lya's story right now.
If you are, she can always use your help. That's the key to episodes like this. These are the karmic episodes. So if you can take a minute, just 1 second, and go into the show notes, into the links, check out Territorio De Zaguates.
Yes, you can donate, you can sponsor a dog, you can send them supplies. There's so many ways that you can help these animals in need and help Lya continue to do what she does.
And they need your help.
Yes.
All right, back to the episode. It helps me whenever we see you doing this, because we go off in our life afterwards and we get so wrapped up in so many things that matter so much to us. And although we forget that this is happening, anytime we think about it, we know you're here.
Yeah.
And we know that your team is here and these dogs are here and that goodness is being cultivated and love is being given. And I think, like, if there's something I can say to anyone watching, it's if you can't help by committing your entire life in a way that you have, consistent support monetarily and to the conversation, and to know that at any point there's people out there doing good things that they should be doing, like good people doing good things.
Yes.
And we, as the ones that have other things that take up our life, have to, like, I think it's an obligation to support, to contribute. And so with that, I mean, any way that any people can donate money, or I think we ran a fundraiser asking people to send supplies. We'll put a little, like an address, your address.
You guys also offer on your website like a way to sponsor certain dogs, right?
Yeah, you can. We have certain amounts that'll cover certain needs for the dogs, like vets, or you can sponsor them. We have something set up on our. I think it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not the most technological person.
We've been on your website. It's very user friendly.
Okay,
yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Sponsored dogs. I mean, because what I like about there's the no-kill aspect means these are Zeguates.
Yep.
Can you tell everyone what a Zeguates is?
Zaguate is actually some native tongue here, which I'm not even going to try and remember, but I think it's something, the word is something like saguatl, and it actually means mange. So zaguate is what people called a mangy dog that nobody wanted.
Right.
So for a long time, really, I'm sure it still is for a lot of people, zaguate is almost kind of a nasty word.
Right.
But it shouldn't be. I mean, they're the greatest dogs in the world. They're survivors. They come from survivors, and they've been mixed by destiny to come up with the strongest and best natured dogs.
Well, and they're here and given refuge.
Yes.
So, and the refuge and the sanctuary aspect of it means, you said it once already in this conversation, they're not all going to get adopted.
No.
So,
For some, this is their forever home.
This is
Yeah.
the only home they'll know. Some have come in as puppies, and they have grown old here, and nobody has wanted them. It hurts me to say it, because I feel they all deserve a home, but it's nobody's fault.
No,
I mean, it's when I say nobody's wanted them, I'm not really trying to say nobody's. No, it's a dog that was born, and I witnessed him go through an entire life without a family.
Yeah.
But he had this place.
Exactly, he has a family. You've given them the gift of a
Yes.
family and the gift of a home.
And that's what keeps me going every day. When I see these dogs and I go, I remember when he was a little puppy, and I can still, and I can see him rolling down in the grass, and sometimes we have to watch them go.
Yeah.
And at least they came into this world and they had some fun before they left.
And they had love.
And they
because
had love.
That's the one thing that you see, like every single dog that we see in this place is happy.
Yeah.
And they have friends.
And
And
they
they're
have
in a beautiful community, and the people are here to give them love and
Yes.
safety. And that's what's important. Maybe, yes, not all of them are going to find a family, but something that they have found from the minute they walk through those gates is love
Yes.
and compassion and friendship. And,
They're enough for all of us here. They're
and that's
enough.
beautiful. And another thing, like, it's so amazing to just remember what you said earlier, and that really struck a chord with me, is it's one thing to get a dog, but when you rescue a dog, there's like this loyalty and this gratitude that they have in their heart for that person.
It's different.
And that's so special to think about. And I hope, and people that are listening to this and watching this, it's like if they're ready for a family addition, like the idea of actually giving a second chance of a family life to a dog would change their whole world. And that's such a beautiful service to a living being.
They are. I just keep telling people,
Yeah.
they would do the same for us if they had to.
Yeah.
And just the fact that you could do something for them. Not only are you going to be granted the honor of sharing time on this earth with a very special creature, but that creature is going to make you feel very special as well.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we all need to feel special about something.
Yeah. And that unconditional love, especially in a world right now where there's a lot of loneliness that people are experiencing, with division and so much political things happening right now, right?
We're so
everywhere in the
focused.
world. That it's like when you can bring just this being that will give you unconditional love, that is such amazing support through this difficult time in our life,
And a teacher, I think.
Yeah.
They are teachers.
There's such teachers. Like,
little gurus. Yeah.
people always... There's a whole thing about, like, when people are unhappy in their life and they're like, I just don't have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've heard a lot of coaches and people say, well, the first thing you should do is just go and be of service, right? Go give yourself a service and a purpose, and then the universe starts to align together. And I think maybe a great suggestion for that first step you can do is go adopt a dog.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you'll have not just a purpose for giving love, but you'll receive 10 times of what you're giving.
Yes.
Prince, when we got Prince, he was in a dog fighting network. As a puppy, all of the Rottweilers above him were dog fighters in Toronto. We had to drive to Jane and Finch in Toronto, which is a notorious intersection
Like the worst
for
place.
like the thug
Yeah.
location
We're
of
like, where are we
Toronto.
going?
Like if anyone ever says, "Oh yeah, something about Jane and Finch," everyone's like, "Ee." And so we had to go to like a grocery store parking lot and meet a bunch of gangsters.
So we could get the
we
dog.
could get Prince, and he was messed up from the beginning. Like he was abused, and he was troublesome.
And actually, the very last day, he never got over his trauma to a point where he could be kind to all humans.
And
Right.
he was loved by you.
But
And through the struggle that we went through to try to figure out the combination, we believed we could unlock his trauma. Like, we totally believed it. But and that he could one day just be a family dog and like love but that would never happen. But that was our lesson to learn. But the lessons he taught us about teamwork and about loyalty and about
love.
companionship, about love,
Patience.
like, he was the greatest teacher in our life. And we actually, when it comes down to it, we can credit Boho Beautiful, the existence of Boho Beautiful, to Prince.
Wow.
Because we got him at a time when we were like, oh, we'd love a dog. But we were so wrapped up in our own lives and in all the crap we were doing in Toronto that his demand that we had to step out of all the noise and focus on him and love and teamwork.
And go outside.
And go
into
outside
nature.
because he had so much pent-up energy.
Yeah.
It was a 5-kilometer walk a day or he would tear our house apart.
And at that time, we lived in like a tiny apartment.
Yeah,
in
we
the
lived in
city.
and we had this little...
So it was like, and we had this Rottweiler, and so we were out twice a day, just
walking.
But
And-
in like those moments, actually connecting to ourselves at the same time, because
and connecting to nature
Yeah.
and connecting to compassion, connecting to so much else that in those empty moments that we weren't all wrapped up in our own like drive of whatever our Toronto life was, it allowed us to start thinking for the first time and thinking about things that mattered.
and it inspired to start creating what we've created.
And something you probably didn't even notice you were doing, but you were choosing resilience. It's easy to give up on a dog.
Yeah.
That's difficult. It's
Oh.
easy. It's easy to give up on anything that's being difficult.
We had
But if
so
you
many people
don't-
tell us, like, you need to put this dog down.
Oh my goodness.
Like, how many people told us? I could count.
And then not doing it, you come out so much stronger and wiser. And it's as if the universe is giving back for the effort you're putting into that little bit.
He wasn't the dog we wanted, but he was the dog that we
You
needed.
needed.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And it's brought so much to our existence that when it comes to someone saying, I don't know what to do with my life, I'm miserable, like, go get a dog. Like, literally go adopt a dog or a cat or even adopt another life for you to care for that gives you a purpose, because when you have a purpose, the universe will align. And we had no idea what was going to happen to us.
Absolutely.
From after we adopted Prince. And at times we almost gave him up.
I'm sure.
We
The hard moments, for sure. There were moments where
ethically
you're like,
played the hands and like look and weighed the scales, and these 4 hours a day that we're giving to this dog. What else could we like? Imagine what else we could become. It was all so self-centered. Like what else? How many books we could read and courses we could take and all the things. But then in the end, the course of what he gave to I can't talk about it enough.
It's what you had to go through. You know, people in different religions, but there's always beings and companions, and call them angels or whatever you want. People are willing to believe in these entities that are put on earth to protect, guide, inspire, whatever. And it's almost, to me, it's hard to understand how people are willing to believe in that, but can't see that same purpose and guidance and inspiration from these little ones, who I think are the true flesh and bone angels. They don't have wings. They have
tails.
They have ticks. They have fleas. They have bad breath, and they shed. But these are, if you give them the chance, these are those little beings that are there put in front of us by the universe to help us grow.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Wow. That's a beautiful note.
Yeah.
A beautiful note
To close
to
off.
maybe wrap all of this up.
Thank you, Lya. Thank you for everything that you do, for your heart, for your compassion, for your energy, and I just hope that people can see and hear about you and your efforts, and whether they support you or other organizations out there,
It doesn't
people like
matter.
yourself, as long as they can see that everyone can do something, and maybe
Everyone.
not start a rescue if you can't allow that in your life. You can contribute to it. You can donate. You can adopt.
You can contribute to the conversation. You can be supportive. You
Yeah.
can everything. Anything you're doing to support prayers. That's support.
Every act of kindness
Exactly.
is just as it will cause a ripple, and you'll never know.
Exactly.
And actually, Lek, she runs this elephant nature park in Thailand. When we worked with them on trying to save an elephant with her, she gave us the most amazing quote that I think we live by a lot when we see an animal in need. It's like, you can't change the world, because the world, this whole problem, as we've recognized in this conversation, is overwhelming and possibly unsolvable. So you can't change the world, but you can change the world of that animal.
Exactly.
And to
that's
me,
what we have to focus on.
that's what we have to focus on.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on that. Stay healthy. Stay happy.
So guys, we'll put some links at the bottom of all of the places that we publish this here little podcast,
Yes.
and anything you can do to support Lya, or to just, if not directly there, just take a moment when you see an animal or someone or anything in need, an act of kindness. I think that really, that little effort can mean so much to somebody else.
Create those ripples.
All
Love. Thank you, Lya.
Thank you guys. And thank you to all the community in honor of it. It is an honor to have all those names here.
It really is amazing.
And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
We really hope you guys enjoyed this episode today.
And if you did, Lya needs your support. We said it earlier in the episode, but
Territorio De Zaguates, you can go and donate, you can sponsor a dog, you can just share her mission on your social media. Anything you can really, really helps her.
that is why we do these karma episodes here on Stars Destruct, and we're going to keep doing them, because we would love to inspire you, to inspire others, to help her on her mission, because it's so important.
And if you did find value in this episode today, you can also help us out by clicking that subscribe button, the follow button, maybe leave a comment even, or a review. That would mean so much to us. Thank you guys for being here.
We'll see you on the next episode.